Huan's left shoulder, and the king collapsed in his chariot at the sound of the bowstring. His attendants hurried forward to support him and pulled out the arrow. Fortunately, King Huan was wearing double-layered armor underneath his robes, otherwise this arrow would certainly have killed him. Seeing that King Huan had been hit, Jude and desperately urged his chariot forward in pursuit. Just as he was about to catch up, fortunately, Duke Linfu of Guo arrived alone in his chariot and engaged Zhu Dan in combat. At that moment, Yuan Fan and Man Bo also arrived on the scene. Duke Linfu fought desperately but could not break free. When he saw another contingent of chariots and soldiers approaching from a side road, he thought to himself, this is completely hopeless. But as the troops drew nearer, he recognized them as led by Duke Haijian of Zhou. Duke Linfu regained his spirit and joined forces with Duke Haijian, fighting together with renewed vigor. Spears clashed with swords, horses and chariots wheeled back and forth. The battle raised clouds of dust that blotted out the sunlight. Duke Linfu and Duke Haijian had no intention of prolonging the fight. They only wanted to protect King Huan and fight their way to escape. However, the Zheng soldiers grew increasingly fierce in their attack, and it seemed they would soon overtake King Huan. At that moment, the sudden sound of gongs signaling retreat came from the Zheng army. Zhu Dan, Yuan Fan, and Man Bo, filled with deep regret, sighed heavily and withdrew their troops back to camp. King Huan managed to escape and led his defeated army to retreat 30 li before setting up camp again. When Zhu Dan and the others returned, they asked Duke Zhong of Zheng with disappointment in their voices. We had almost caught up with the Zhou king and were on the verge of capturing him alive. Why did you suddenly sound the retreat? For our state of Zheng excellent. However, we never actually wanted to capture the Zhou king. Nominally, he remains the son of heaven, but he fails to understand reason and bullies us. We didn't want this war, but were forced to defend ourselves. This defeat serves to show him that we cannot be easily manipulated, and that should be enough. If we had actually captured him alive, it would have been difficult to decide how to deal with him. General Zhu's arrow was perfectly shot. The best outcome was achieved. It struck him but didn't kill him. If he had actually died, it would have been difficult to explain to the other feudal states. Ji Zhong said, Our Lord thinks ahead and considers all aspects. Now that we have won the victory and the Zhou king knows we are not to be bullied lightly, we should take this opportunity to send a minister to inquire after the king's health and express sympathy for his injury. This way, we become victors not only militarily but also morally. The Zhou king will not dare to attack us again in the future. And the other states will respect and admire us even more. What does our Lord think? Duke Zhong felt Ji Zhong's words were reasonable and accepted his suggestion. He told Ji Zhong, This mission must be undertaken by you. Please make this journey. Ji Zhong brought gifts to the Zhou camp, met King Huan, performed the proper rituals, and conveyed Duke Zhuang's message on his behalf. Your servant Wuxing comes to confess his crime. When I saw armies coming to attack Zheng, my judgment was clouded, and the soldiers rose in self-defense. Unexpectedly, in the chaos of battle, a stray arrow accidentally struck your Majesty's left shoulder. Wuxing was deeply concerned to hear this and has specially sent me, Ji Zhong, to apologize on his behalf and inquire after your Majesty's health. We beg your Majesty's forgiveness for this unintended offense. King Huan had escaped and retreated to set up camp 30 li away. At this point, he was filled with anger but could do nothing about it. He had launched a punitive campaign but not only failed to achieve victory, he returned with an arrow wound. In this situation, he could only endure the humiliation patiently. He imagined how arrogant Wuxing must be acting now, and how the various feudal states must be laughing at him. From now on, his prestige would be completely destroyed. And after Zheng, many states would break off their ruler-subject relationships with him. He regretted not listening to the advice of ministers like Duke Haijian of Zhou earlier and acting on impulsive anger by ordering the expedition. How could this situation be salvaged? As he thought about this, shame and anger intertwined within him. When he heard that Duke Zhong of Zheng had sent his chief minister Ji Zhong to inquire after him, He initially didn't want to receive the envoy. Only after being persuaded by Duke Haijian of Zhou and Duke Linfu of Guo did he reluctantly agree. When he heard Ji Zhong's words, he felt somewhat ashamed and remained silent for a while. Duke Linfu of Guo spoke on behalf of the king. Since Wuxing has admitted his crime, we can be lenient. Let bygones be bygones, we will pardon him this time. Ji Zhong quickly knelt before King Huan and kowtowed in gratitude. He then went to each military camp to offer condolences one by one. All the officers and soldiers under King Huan's command admired Duke Zhong of Zheng's magnanimity. King Huan also used this as an opportunity to save face, leading his defeated troops back to Luyi. Proclamations to various states to jointly condemn Wuxing for disrespecting the royal court. Duke Linfu of Guo advised against this. This shouldn't be done. Our previous expedition was poorly considered and inadequately prepared, resulting in military failure. If we now issue orders to various states, wouldn't that be deliberately publicizing our defeat? I beg your majesty to reconsider, Duke Haijian of Zhou also said. Duke Gu's words deserve consideration. Besides, among the feudal states, only Chen, Wei, and Kai haven't formed alliances with Zheng. The surrounding states all have various treaties with Zheng. If we issue proclamations and they refuse to respond, or if we demand troops and they don't send them, it would be even more embarrassing. Moreover, Zheng has already sent an envoy to comfort our army and admit guilt. It would be better to issue an edict pardoning his crime and give him a path to reform. Duke Zhong, having achieved victory, distributed rewards based on merit. Gong Ziyuan, Ji Zhong, and others received grants and honors. But only Zhu Dan was neither credited with merit nor rewarded. Zhu Dan felt this was very unfair and went to Duke Zhong saying, "During the battle, I charged at the front and fought bravely against the enemy. I even shot the Zhou king in the left shoulder. I contributed to repelling the enemy. But in this recognition of merits, I wasn't mentioned. Has our Lord forgotten me?" Duke Zhong said, "I know you contributed greatly in this battle, and I haven't forgotten you. But I cannot credit you with merit or reward you. There's no alternative. Just think, if I reward you for shooting the Zhou king, what would people say about me?" After hearing Duke Zhuang's words, Zhu Dan said nothing and withdrew. But he felt extremely angry. People say our Lord is skilled at manipulation. How true! You urged us to risk death in battle for victory. But now you act like this for the sake of your own reputation. Is this fair? Thus, Zhu Dan became deeply troubled by this matter, and his resentment festered. Due to excessive anger, the boil on his back recurred, and he soon died. Duke Zhong ordered that he be buried with full honors and made proper arrangements for his family. 6 more years, Zheng's prestige kept growing, but unfortunately, Duke Zhong fell ill. Knowing his condition was serious, he summoned his chief minister Ji Zhong to his bedside for discussion, saying, "All 8 of my sons have some capabilities, but I prefer my second son Zitu. I want to pass the throne to him. What do you think?" Ji Zhong comforted the duke and said, "According to current customs, the eldest son should inherit the throne. Zihu is the eldest and was long ago established as heir apparent. He has some influence among the states. Now appointing Zitu instead might not be advisable." After moaning on his sickbed for a while, Duke Zhong said, "You make sense. But I fear Zitu won't willingly submit to others. If we establish Zitu might contest the throne, and Zheng will fall into chaos. If civil war breaks out, my lifelong efforts will have been in vain." Ji Zhong remained silent. After some thought, Duke Zhong said, "Perhaps we should follow current customs and let Zihu succeed. But then we must send Zitu to another state to prevent him from causing trouble domestically." Ji Zhong agreed this was better. "You are most wise, my lord. Which state would be suitable to send him to?" Duke Zhong told him to send Zitu to Song. His maternal grandmother's family was from there. Ji Zhong kowtowed and said, "Everything will be done according to your wishes." With tears in his eyes, Duke Zhong said, "Zheng will likely face troubles from now on." In May 701 BC, Duke Zhong of Zheng died of illness. and heir apparent Zi, who succeeded him, becoming Duke Zhao of Zheng. After ascending the throne, Duke Zhao sent Jizhong to Song on a diplomatic mission, also tasking him with observing Song's reactions and Zitu's activities after his exile there. Why am I being held without cause? Despite his shouts and protests, guards confined him in a military compound. That night, Song's Grand Minister Huadu came to see Jizhong, saying, when Prince Zita came to Song, he already desired to return to Zheng and claim the throne. Our ruler sympathizes with him and wishes to escort him back with troops, since you hold real power in Zheng. If you return to depose Zihu and establish Zitu as ruler instead, our ruler is willing to maintain eternal friendship with you. Jizhong understood this was about Zitu's claim to the throne. He solemnly told Huadu, establishing Zihu as ruler was the former duke's command. How can I personally decide matters of succession? Huadu persuaded him further. This is our ruler's intention. Your refusal won't change anything. In my view, you should agree. Which state hasn't seen regicide and usurpation? Nowadays, only strength matters. Who cares about right and wrong? Then he whispered in Jizhong's ear, I shouldn't say this, but didn't our own ruler kill Duke Shang to seize the throne? I advise you not to be too rigid. Frowning deeply, Jizhong remained silent. Seeing his reluctance, Huadu pressed further with practical consequences. If you truly refuse, our ruler will dispatch General Nangong Changwan with 600 war chariots to escort Zi back to Zheng to seize the throne. Then war between Song and Zheng would be inevitable. Before sending troops, we'll first cut off your head to consecrate our banners. I'm saying this for your benefit. Please consider carefully. Jizhong thought, Duke Zhong of Song is insatiably greedy. He would indeed do this. My death matters little, but it wouldn't help Lord Zihu. Moreover, Zheng's people would suffer from war. Dying pointlessly would help no one. Deciding to pretend agreement while seeking alternatives later, he relented. He had Zita brought to a secret chamber, saying, I originally wanted to help you return home and succeed. But Zheng has already established a new ruler. They sent an envoy with a secret letter asking me to kill you, offering 3 cities as reward. I cannot bear to harm you, hence I'm telling you this. What are your plans? Hearing this, Zita collapsed in terror. Kneeling on the ground, he said, My misfortune is great. I only beg your mercy. If I can return to Zheng and claim the throne through your influence, I will obey all your commands. Then not just 3 cities, all of Zheng will be yours. This was exactly what Duke Zhong of Song wanted to hear. Though inwardly delighted, he pretended hesitation before finally saying with feigned sympathy, I'm doing this entirely for you. Having manipulated both sides, Duke Zhong of Song summoned Jizhong, Zitu, and Zitu's maternal relatives from the Yong family. He announced publicly, Song would escort Zita back to Zheng with massive troops. Jizhong would depose Zihu and establish Zitu as ruler. After succession, Zitu would cede 3 cities to Song as reward, plus 100 pairs of white jades, 10,000 yi of gold. 1 yi equals 24 taels, and annual tribute of 30,000 zhong of grain, all documented in a signed treaty. Eager to become ruler, Zitu agreed to all conditions. To ensure compliance, Duke Zhong of Song not only stationed troops along Zheng's border but also sent Song minister Yongjiu to assist Zitu. He forced Jizhong to marry his daughter to Yongjiu, thus binding Jizhong and Yongjiu together under Song's control. With everything arranged, Jizhong was allowed to return to Zheng with Yongjiu disguised as his attendant for surveillance. Nangong Changwan led troops stationed along Zheng's border awaiting orders. He used his illness as pretext to summon ministers, coercing them to agree to depose Zihu and establish Zitu as ruler. Surrounded by armed guards, ministers had no choice but to comply. Thus Zitu became ruler of Zhengdu Kli of Zheng. Jizhong advised Zihu to relinquish power, and Zihu fled to Wei. Jizhong married his daughter to Yongjiu. Though Yongjiu assisted Duke Li and enjoyed his trust, he secretly monitored Jizhong's movements as Song's agent. When Duke Zhong of Song learned Zitu had succeeded, He sent envoys to Zheng offering congratulations while demanding the promised 3 cities, jades, gold, and grain. Now securely on the throne, Duke Li of Zheng no longer felt as vulnerable as when his life depended on Song's whims. He thought, in my desperation to return and claim the throne, I agreed to all terms without negotiation. But now, demanding repayment immediately after my succession is utterly unreasonable. If I cede 3 cities as treaty requires, our territory will significantly diminish. If I pay the gold, jades, and grain in full, our treasury will be emptied. He wanted to renege, but with Song's envoys already pressing demands, what could he do? Duke Li of Zheng then summoned Jizhong to discuss how to deal with Song. Jizhong said, "You originally promised these terms personally. If we give nothing now, I'm afraid he won't accept it. Moreover, Song's army is still stationed on Zheng's border. If war breaks out, Zheng's people will suffer greatly. If we fully comply with the treaty terms, Zheng cannot bear the burden. A temporary solution is to not cede the 3 cities but instead send the tax grain revenue from these 3 regions as substitution. Also give 1/3 of the white jades and gold first. Tell him we will pay according to the treaty terms starting next year. This might help us stall for time. 30 pairs of white jades, 3,000 yi of gold, and the tax grain from the 3 cities to Duke Jung of Song, along with a letter explaining the situation in essentially the same terms Jizhong had suggested. When Duke Jung of Song saw the letter, he became very angry. He said, "This Zitu has no honor at all. I saved his life. My power helped him return and claim the throne. I gave him the state of Zheng itself. How could he say one thing when he needed me but change his tune after returning and becoming ruler?" He sent people again to demand payment. Duke Li had no choice but to send more gifts. But Duke Jung of Song still refused, insisting on full payment of gold, jades, and grain according to the treaty, and demanding immediate cession of the 3 cities. Though Duke Li was very angry, he could do nothing but consult Jizhong again. Jizhong said, "The ruler of Song is too insatiably greedy. When he returned to claim his throne back then, it was our former duke who escorted him back. He has repaid none of Zheng's great kindness to him. Now he relies on having helped you return to make excessive demands and speak rudely. How can you face people with dignity?" Duke Li said, "I know this. Just tell me what method to use against him." Seeing Duke Li's impatient attitude, Jizhong said, "At this point, we can only ask the ruler of Lu to mediate." Duke Li sent people to request Lu's mediation. Duke Jung of Song, being very greedy, listened to no one's advice and said many disrespectful things to Lu, angering its ruler. The ruler of Lu said, "Duke Song is truly unreasonable. I never expected him to be such a person who only covets wealth and ignores honor." Only then did Duke Jung of Song stop demanding wealth from Zheng. From then on, Song and Zheng became enemies. The following year, Song again allied with Chen, Wei, and Kai to attack Zheng. Duke Li wanted to send troops to engage the enemy, but Jizhong advised holding their positions and not fighting. Duke Li felt he couldn't swallow this insult and insisted on fighting Song to the death. With disagreement between them, Jizhong didn't wait for Duke Li to speak but ordered, "All officers and men must hold the city walls, no engaging the enemy. Those who disobey will be executed." The army all obeyed Jizhong's command, and Duke Li could say nothing more. Seeing Zheng's army holding the city impregnable, Duke Jung of Song became so angry he could do nothing but plunder some goods in the suburbs, set fires, then withdraw. To vent their anger, they even dismantled the roof beams from Zheng's suburban temple and transported them to Song, to use as the main beam for the Lu Gate. Li resented his authoritarian control and feared he would become even more disobedient, thus developing the idea of eliminating him. In 697 BC, King Huan of Zhou died of illness. Duke Haijin of Zhou supported Gongzi Tuo's accession to the throne, becoming King Jung of Zhou. Duke Li and Jizhong disagreed on whether to send condolences. Duke Li wanted to send people, but Jizhong said, King Huan once led troops to attack Zheng, and we shot him in the shoulder. If we send condolences now, other states might laugh at us. The ministers all believed Ji Zhong's opinion was correct. Though they again followed Ji Zhong's advice and didn't send condolences, Duke Li's hatred toward Ji Zhong deepened. Ji Zhong had significant influence and held military power, leaving Duke Li unsure how to kill him. One day, while Duke Li was strolling in the rear garden with only Minister Yongju accompanying him, Yongju was the person Duke Zhong of Song had sent to monitor Ji Zhong back then, and now he was also Duke Li's favored minister. Duke Zhong of Song had forced Ji Zhong to marry his daughter to him, so he was also Ji Zhong's son-in-law. Yongju was very ambitious, superficially friendly but actually at odds with Ji Zhong, always wanting to replace his position, which unconsciously stirred his troubled thoughts. He thought even flowers and birds enjoy such freedom, while I, a ruler, am constrained by others. Thinking this, he couldn't help but sigh deeply. Yongju, seeing Duke Li's long sighs, guessed his concerns and deliberately said, "In spring's bright sunshine, with flowers competing in beauty and birds singing together, the scenery is so beautiful, why does my lord sigh deeply?" Duke Li, seeing no one around, didn't conceal his feelings. Birds fly and sing freely without any constraints, yet humans have less freedom than birds, how can one not sigh? Yongju knew what Duke Li meant and who he referred to as constraining him. He said, "Is my lord perhaps referring to someone who monopolizes power and acts too tyrannically?" Gesturing to suggest Ji Zhong's characteristics, Duke Li looked at Yongju but said nothing. Yongju also greatly resented Ji Zhong. He knew Ji Zhong had married his daughter to him out of helplessness. Duke Zhong of Song had originally sent him to monitor Ji Zhong, but his actions were often seen through by Ji Zhong. Now seeing Duke Li's hatred toward Ji Zhong, he also wanted to use the Duke's authority to teach Ji Zhong a lesson. He said to Duke Li, "I've heard that sons who cannot share their father's worries are unfilial, and ministers who cannot resolve their ruler's difficulties are disloyal. If my lord trusts me, should you have any use for me, I would brave boiling water and blazing fire, even death itself, without hesitation." Duke Li glanced around and whispered tentatively, "But aren't you his son-in-law?" Yongju said, "My lord knows what kind of son-in-law this is." He then poured out his grievances to Duke Li. Duke Li said, "If you can eliminate him, I'll let you succeed his official position. Do you have any method? Is burned, and the people still have no homes. My lord can order the Minister of Works to rebuild houses while sending Ji Zhong with grain to comfort the people and provide relief. Then I will host a banquet for him outside the eastern gate. Secretly putting poison in his wine, we can eliminate him without any effort." Duke Li nodded and warned him, "You must be very careful with this matter, not the slightest carelessness." Yongju, preoccupied with this matter, acted unnaturally when seeing his wife Ji upon returning home, showing unease on his face and some nervousness in his actions. She was Ji Zhong's daughter. After marrying Yongju, she was called Yongji. She was a careful person. She had been very unwilling to marry Yongju back then. But marital relationships at that time could only follow a chicken. Today, seeing Yongju's abnormal behavior, she asked him, "Has something happened at court?" Yongju stammered, "And no, nothing happened." She said, "I can tell from your expression that something must have happened, you're just unwilling to tell me." She comforted him very considerately, explaining that spouses shouldn't hide things from each other, adding, "If you have difficulties, I might even be able to offer suggestions." Yongju, touched by his wife's concern, wanted to tell her but feared it inappropriate, only saying, "Nothing else. Tomorrow the Lord wants your father to go to the eastern suburbs to comfort the people, and wants me to host a banquet celebrating your father's birthday." She smiled and said, "Your words don't match. Why must we go to the eastern suburbs for my father's birthday?" Yongju knew his lie sounded implausible and couldn't explain, only vaguely saying, "This is the ruler's command, don't ask more," trying every way to encourage him to drink more cups. Depressed, Yongju drank generously under her encouragement until drunk. Seizing the opportunity while Yongju was drunk. She tricked him. The ruler ordered you to kill Jizhong, have you forgotten? In his drunken stupor, Yongju replied confusedly, this is important state business, how dare I forget? Hearing this, Shi broke into a cold sweat. Did Shi successfully prevent Yongju from killing his father? To find out what happened next, stay tuned for the next episode. Bye. Against each other, gradually emerging into the China we know today. Over these thousands of years of integration, countless fascinating stories unfolded. I am a Chinese high school student, and in my free time, I create this video to share the stories that find most intriguing, thought-provoking and fun stories that will help you understand China better. If you're interested in China, have any questions about the country, or need travel tips for an upcoming trip, feel free to leave a comment under my video. I'll do my best to reply as soon as possible and provide whatever help I can. Thanks for following and liking.